Priya Sajith, and today I'm extremely pleased to be here with Miss Asha Iyer Kumar during the launch of her latest book, Life is an Emoji. I know Asha from quite some time. I have contacted her through Facebook after reading her articles in College Times, one of the leading newspapers in the Gulf. And I became a total fan and I reached out to her and imposed myself on her. Now, as you all know, Asha is an accomplished writer. She has come out with 5 books. This is her 5th one. And she is also a creative writing coach. And she also has so many other passions. She is a blogger and she has launched recently a platform called Glowworm for children and young adults to showcase their talents. She is a columnist for College Times, like I mentioned before, and she is also an excellent photographer as well as she paints equally as well. So, welcome Asha. First obvious question to you, Asha, is how do you manage to do so many things at a time?
First of all, thank you very much for coming over and having this session with me. It's a greater pleasure to have you, Priya, because you're someone who's so familiar with my work, and it makes a lot of sense to me when I talk to someone who knows what I'm doing. And so thanks once again. How do I manage so many things? Let me confess, I'm not a multitasker. I don't claim to be one. But then all the interests that I have, I think I assign a certain space for them and the time for them. It's like while I'm doing one thing, I'm not doing the other thing. At the most, I'm doing 2 things together. So if I have started a painting, I don't do anything other than that painting. Unless I finish that thing, I don't move on to the other one. Sometimes it can get very chaotic because your mind pulls you in different directions, and then while you're doing one thing, that's when you have an idea and you want to just put down the idea in words, and then you don't know what to do next. That happens, but then I've managed to sort it out, and I was on a sabbatical for a while. I wasn't writing for a while. I had to just sort myself out actually, and I'm just getting back to writing again. So those kind of small breaks also help me to really know what is on priority and what needs to be done now and what can wait. So that's how I probably handle the whole thing.
Okay, so let's go to your books now, your previous books, that is. So your first book is a novel,
Yes.
Sandstorm, Summer Rains,
Yes.
and I understand it was one of the first English novels to be published by an immigrant, right?
Yes.
Then we see you shifting to poetry, a beautiful collection, I must say, Hymns from the Heart.
Thank you.
With the basic theme of love.
Yes.
And then you go on to do short stories.
Yes.
So a collection of 3 short stories was your first, and you called it Let It Be Love.
Yes.
And then again you stuck with the short story, that is another collection which became the bestseller,
Yes.
that is After the Rains.
That's right.
And then now finally you've come out with your latest book, which is a collection of articles.
That's
and the
right.
book is called Life is an Emoji.
Yes.
So it is quite interesting when I look at it, and I should say unusual, because you don't stick to any particular format.
That's
you keep jumping from novel to poem to short stories.
Right.
So why so?
Okay, let's look at it this way. A writer doesn't start off deciding that this is going to be my genre. Okay, at least for me, I didn't. I think this was a part of my own experimentation, like what was I comfortable with.
You're trying to
and
find your
I was
comfort zone.
comfort zone, and each genre has its own peculiarities. You have the pros and cons. For example, when I wrote the novel, it was very ambitious. Looking back, I feel for someone to start out with a novel, and it ran to 450 pages, I must tell you, about 110,000 words, and that was very ambitious, and I think I was overly bold to start off with, but I knew that, at the end of it, the day I finished it, I was like ecstatic, because I realized that I could do it. I could finish writing such a long novel. So that gave me all the impetus, that gave me all the encouragement to continue with writing. Okay, and Poetry was something like, poems are what we all start with. Okay, any writer, even the children that I teach and in glowworms, all the youngsters start off with poems because poems are considered to be easier and they're shorter.
Or you should say natural expression.
Natural
of yourself.
expression and somehow people have this feeling that if you have to write prose, you will have to invest a lot more of your time, energy, thought, that sort of a thing. So poetry comes faster for people. I don't know, but I loved writing poetry for a period of time, and then there was this gap. Suddenly poetry wasn't happening at all, and that was when I published the book of poetry, and then short stories. Somewhere my loyalty is always with the short story. I don't know. I love writing short stories more than the full-length novel.
1 second, if I may interrupt. You say your loyalty is with the short story, meaning you like to do short stories, or because your readers like short stories?
No, I love writing short stories because for two reasons. One is I get to complete a certain theme faster.
Yeah,
Right. When I'm planning on a plot, I know exactly how much I can cover in a certain number of pages or in a certain number of words. So I have the entire picture in front of me. The storyboard is in front of me. But when I write a novel, it's like I don't know where this is going to lead me. So that uncertainty kind of, it doesn't work for me. I would like to know what exactly I'm going to do with my piece of writing. So that is one thing. And second thing, it's very easy on the reader too, because the reader doesn't have to invest too much time, to finish off one story. You read one story while you're in the metro, or between two long reads. I mean, it's easy for the reader also to read a piece of story. So I love short story as a genre, and it's challenging to have a short story which has an entire theme woven into it, and to get into the characters and everything. So for some reason I love the short story genre. It doesn't mean that I may not write the other stuff. I will probably if I feel inspired.
Okay, now I would like to know how you discovered this talent. How did you know that you had this hidden talent within you?
So that's a very interesting question, actually. No, I must be frank enough to say that I didn't discover it. I think people around me discovered it and probably pointed it out to me. So I was 12 when I first wrote my poem. My first poem was at 12, I think, yes. And then we had these college magazines and stuff like that, for which I contributed regularly. And somewhere some people started saying that, you write very well. And we didn't know what writing was all about at that point in time. I just used to go about doing it. I had no ambition of becoming an author or a writer. It was
That's difficult to believe.
No, seriously. But at some point in time, somebody said you must take up journalism because you write very well. And I had no clue that journalism and writing had something to do with each other at all. I said, all right, fine. And it was a very revolutionary thing to do at that time,
Not many people.
Yes, especially for girls. And I did that, and then I realized I didn't want to be a journalist. Okay, irony. But then by then, I think, I was hooked to the words, So there was something about it that was pulling me, and I felt, I should be giving expression to myself, my thoughts. And it just happened. And I think writing discovered me rather than I discover the writer in me.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
So that's how it has been. And
Asha, when I read your stories, your short stories especially, the characters are like people whom I feel I have seen somewhere, I met them somewhere. And so I would like to know, are they real people or just figments of your imagination, or a mix of both?
Yes, I think it would be fair to say that it's a mix of both. the characters are not exactly the same that I might have seen somewhere. Uh, they are people, what's important for a writer is to be a keen observer of life, okay? And when you observe people, when you observe things in life, there are certain things that stick to you, okay? And those are the things that you can always impart to your characters, whether they are life situations, characteristics, emotions, anything. So, for example, if I see someone, I try to understand what his life might be like, what that person might be like, and then I try to go back and then create a backstory. Okay, so the backstory may be true, may not be true, but then I don't know, So it's a mixture of both. But that one person is the inspiration behind that particular character.
So you have a framework.
There is some outline for me to begin with. It's not like they are characters just out of thin air. So that's how it is.
And another thing I notice about your stories is they are haunting. Even after you put down the book for quite some time, that character stays with you. And if I were asked to describe your work in one word, I would say soulful. And so I would like to know, how did you delve into the soul of the character, and how did you manage to create such an emotional connect with your readers?
In one word, empathy. Yeah. So without it, you simply cannot put yourself into the shoes of another man and live their lives. So what I do is I live their lives literally. Okay. So do I know everything about their lives? Maybe not, but then I do know about a lot of life facts, right? Like realities of life. So I put myself into it, and I think, like, what would I do if I were there? And that brings out answers for me, and that brings out resolutions.
Put them in their shoes, and you see.
And then I see, So all my characters, there's a little bit of me in all my characters, and there's a little bit of all the characters in me too.
Do they haunt you as well?
Yes, some of them. Yes, very much. Some of them, and that's one drawback of being very empathetic. You don't very easily shake yourself out of the situation or of the character. And empathy is a good thing for a writer, and sometimes it's bad for you as a person. Right? So now if I see someone and if I'm very deeply moved by that person's life or whatever, and if I want to write about that person, I become that person and I live that life out, that can be very,
disturbing.
Yes, disturbing, and it can really heart-wrenching also. So it's good as well as bad, but then I think
But that's why you get that connect.
Yes, but I agree. Yes, but I think it's true of all artists, and at some point the artist comes to terms with it, and we just play the two roles equally well.
Okay, I read somewhere your writing. You said your motto was "Ekla Chalore." I think it's Tagore.
Yes.
So you said that if nobody, is there to help you out, roughly translated, you go out and do it alone.
Right.
So is that why you thought of self-publishing? Would you like to tell our viewers something about self-publishing? Because many aspiring authors would love to know about it.
Yes. Why did I start self-publishing? And okay, let me be very honest. I was not picked by the traditional publishers at all. And at the time when I wanted to publish my first novel, it was a huge struggle, and it was like groping in the dark. I had no clue about the publishing industry, the processes, and how it worked, and nothing. So I ended up, for the first two books, I ended up paying big time. Okay, I shelled out money and got my books published, and I did not get even a single penny in return. And I knew that this was not going to work out. If I had to be a writer, either someone has to pick me, okay, and if someone has
What do you mean pick me?
in the sense a traditional publisher has to, commission me or sign me, and if that wasn't happening, then I had to find a third way out. paying these publishers, the vanity publishers, to get my book published was not going to happen anymore. I had decided that after my first two experiences. And that's when all these information technology started opening up, and we had all these explosive ways to put yourself out there, and one thing led to the other, and see, the important thing was I knew that I had good stuff to give to the readers. Okay, no, it's not, I'm not being very conceited or self-important, but then the response that I got from people when I wrote on different other platforms, like for example in College Times and my blogs and everything, people said that they loved my book. So when they say they loved my book or my writing, I felt I had an obligation to present them with my writing in a way that is convenient to me. And that's how I started off with self-publishing. And I tell you, it gives me so much of freedom in terms of what I want to do and what I can do, and I'm not answerable to anyone, and I may or may not make money out of it. That's a secondary thing, but I'm satisfied. There is a lot of fulfillment in the whole process of doing it, and I learned so much. So I think self-publishing should not be looked down upon anymore. There was a time when it was considered to be infra-dig. It was considered like someone who's published himself or herself is not good enough to be picked by the traditional publisher, and that's why. But then no, traditional publishers pick people who will sell. Let's be very clear about it. Okay, they are looking only at the commercial aspect of it. The economics is what works there. But for the self-publisher, it is something totally different. It's satisfaction, and then creating something of our own. So that's how I got going.
Before I met you, I used to think that if you have your content is good, then your book, people like your books, then it becomes a hit and publishing houses will come behind you. But I was naive. It doesn't happen that way at all. So how important is marketing and advertisement?
Okay. Somebody told me, okay, I had met someone about 6 to 8 months ago, and I was talking about this thing, and he was into some kind of, he was an entrepreneur. And he very clearly told me when I was discussing some project with him, he said that only 25% is content, 75% is marketing. Okay, I had my own reservations about that particular thing that he said. I said, how can you sell bad stuff? I mean, you can market bad stuff, you can show it in great light, you can popularize it, but then to get people come back to you needs good content, right? You cannot be selling book just once and then be vanishing. So, but I don't know, yes, today marketing is king. How you market, what you tell people about yourself, how you tell them, it is really, really annoying sometimes. But then that's how it is. Advertising and marketing is what you need for at least letting people know that, look, I have this stuff with me. Try it out.
Okay. So how do you define literary success according to you?
Literary success. Okay, success by itself, means different things to different people, right? One could measure success in terms of wealth, in terms of popularity, fame. But I think, to me personally, I think success to me means when someone comes back and says that a certain piece of writing has touched them. It made a difference to them. Okay, so if I have 10 people saying that, if I have made 10 people think differently, then I think I've been successful. Okay, so that's how I am now even targeting my audience, and I am not selling to anyone and everyone. Like people who really feel that there's some takeaway from my writing are the kind of people who come back to read my. So for me, reaching out and touching people's lives is what success is about.
Have you ever had to compromise with the originality? Did you have to cater to your readers ever?
Did I have to? I've been compelled to think on those terms. Yes, I would agree that I have wondered many times if I should write, you know, frivolous stuff, you know, so that there is mass reach.
There's a market for
yes,
that.
the market for that, and but then I realized that was not what I was here for, and I would never sleep well if I did that, because that was not my objective at all. So then I realized that I write what I want to write and what I genuinely feel, right? So there has to be authenticity in one's expression. So without that authenticity, if I'm only catering to the market, then I'm faking it big time. So I never did that. You know, I was lucky that I didn't fall into the trap, and I didn't get carried away by that
So no
bait.
regrets.
I don't do that. I write what comes to me naturally, and that's worked really. You know, it's really worked very well.
Okay, now we come to your latest book,
Yes.
which is a collection of articles that you have published in College Times, right?
Correct.
So it has an interesting title, Life is an Emoji. We all know what emoji is, though we get confused which is what. But why did you choose this title?
As you would well know, my column was on life, right? So it had to do something with life, because all my articles were, you know, looking at life from different angles,
Reflections
and yes,
of
the
life.
reflections, and then, you know, looking through the prism of life, and then trying to understand ourselves as a species, as a gender, in whatever terms, you know. And so then it had to do with something with life, and I was thinking, so what is it? What are we all? You know, what are we all? We are all a collection of emotions. We are all you know, a combination of sentiments and emotions. So, and how do we represent or symbolize our emotions these days in this new electronic age with an emoji?
Yeah.
Right. So any emotion you feel, you don't even have to type out a word. You just have to punch in an emoji, and there you have an entire spectrum of emojis, which can express almost anything.
And new ones are coming
New ones
up.
are coming up too. So you pick anything that, you know, it represents, it symbolizes certain aspect of your life. So it just occurred one day as I was thinking, and then I thought,
Okay, now let's have a sneak peek at your book. Why don't you read us an excerpt from it?
yeah, sure. I'm going to read an excerpt from the introduction, which is an article that I wrote for College Times to mark 5 years of my being a columnist with them. The heading of this article is What It Means to Write About Life. Time is a relative thing, a reality as much as a concept, fluid as much as constant. 5 years can be a long stretch in the annals of history, or just a tick in the clock, depending on how they have passed. Yet, in its most basic form, time is moments, those brief specks that make up the tapestry of life, like the grains of sand that span the beach. I have often been asked by people what in the first place prompted me to construct a life theme for my writing when there were myriad other key issues to write about in this world, and what essentially inspires the weekly pieces. Truth be told, like most other surprises that we stumble upon, the life column was a happenstance that occurred by a happy alignment of the creative and emotive elements in me. Being a keen spectator of life in its diverse colors and contours, registering those observations for my own benefit has long been a private practice.
Besides being a writer, you're also a writing coach, right? So, can you tell us something about the workshops that you conduct and your online classes?
Yes. I've been now tutoring for about 18 years at least, okay, and 15 of those 18 years have been coaching creative writing for children mainly, and I hold workshops during vacations mainly, and now with Zoom on, it has got even easier for me. Uh, Workshops apart, I also have regular classes, and I have students from Muscat and Dubai and even sometimes in India. And what I teach them is not how to write. The first thing, the primary thing is to tell them how to think. Okay, most of our children, especially those in the Indian curriculum, what they lack is the appetite for thought. Okay, anything that needs cognitive work, effort, they would like to shun it. Okay, and anything that is ready made, they are ready to accept it. So they have absolutely no idea of what to write when they are given a certain subject or a topic. Okay, so the first thing they come up and say is, I have no idea. So that's where I start. My coaching starts from the point where I try to tell them, you have the idea. Don't tell me you don't have the idea. It's just that you don't pay enough attention to your thoughts. So that's how, and then you have, of course, we have teaching language to put their thoughts down. I teach the basics of it. I help them with their expressions, and it's been a wonderful journey. You won't believe it, Priya, that children who come to me in the beginning and say that I have no idea, I just can't write. They churn out such beautiful pieces of writing, and they themselves are surprised at how much they're capable of. So it's not about me teaching them how to write. It's about making them aware of their own abilities and talents. I would always say, like, the seed is already there in them. What I do is to nurture, to water them, to nurture them, and then to let them grow on their own. So that's what is really, really satisfying about what I'm doing in my coaching.
Pretty impressive. Would you consider us a class for adults as well?
No, the thing is, I don't know. I might be very judgmental.
I'm asking on behalf of aspiring authors in your Facebook scribblers like me.
No, let's look at it this way. Children when they come to me, they say they don't know anything. It's very easy for me to start off.
Mold them.
Yes, to mold them. And we adults are full of pretensions
and resistance.
And of a lot of self-importance about, today who cannot write? With the social media, every second or every person is a writer. Everyone can write. So it's not very easy for me to, probably go correct them or train them, or even to, show them a better way of expression. So, there is always this problem when you have to deal with adults, that you have to undo a lot of things.
Unlearning.
Yeah, unlearn a lot of things, which is going to be more difficult. But I would love to do it if there is someone who just comes and says that, I just want to express myself, help me with it, and what are the different ways I can do it, So I'm open to it otherwise.
Okay, now what are your future ventures? What is next?
Yes. This book release on the 9th of September,
which happens to be your birthday.
Yes, happens to be a birthday, so actually it's not coincidental. I planned it that way. I released After the Rains on the 9th of September. It was my 50th birthday, and this one 51st, I am coming out with this. So it's kind of now,
date that you set.
Yes,
for yourself.
it's getting a little obsessive, let me say. Okay, so I don't know, maybe next year, if I have something that I have written, or I'm working on a collection of stories now, and if I complete, maybe that. But I have two other things on my mind, two projects. One is to rehash my very first novel, Sandstorm Summer Rains, because it didn't get its due at that point in time. I was a complete novice at that time. I didn't know what marketing was. The book deserves to be seen and read. So probably I want to do a rehash of it and relaunch it. That's one thing on my mind. And second thing is probably I will be getting into some kind of online creative writing courses and such stuff. So these are the two things that I have on my mind at present. A collection of stories could be sneaked in, probably, you know. So
And you know what my wish was after I read After the Rains, a short film.
yes.
If there are any aspiring filmmakers out there, would you like to think about that?
Absolutely, yes. You know,
Especially the visit visa.
Yes, after the rains, I had at least 2 or 3 stories, you know, that people said could be made into a short film. And as you know, Visit Visa was the highlight, and I haven't found anyone who would help me with it yet. And I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not good at that. So yes, I would like to tell viewers, if there's someone who would like to, make a short film. Priya will be able to tell you better about that story. I mean, the Visit Visa is one of my favorites too. Yeah, and if there's someone who can help me with it, and if we can work together on making a short film based on the story, you're welcome, and I would be thrilled to have you on board.
Okay. Before we conclude, is there any message, any advice, any tips you want to give aspiring authors?
Just write. Don't be judgmental. Don't write for someone else's sake. Write because you have something to say to the world. Okay? And write because it is a journey into yourself. Okay? So let not writing become a task. Let writing be a pleasure and something that you do because it wouldn't let you sleep otherwise. So just keep writing. Getting published, not getting published, those are all secondary. Only when you have some good content that you have written and you're confident that what you have written is going to affect people's lives, only then can you be satisfied with your work. So I think that's the only thing I would tell aspiring writers to do.
Okay, so with that, we come to the end of the conversation today. It was a pleasure talking to you, Asha, and wishing you all success in your latest endeavor, and let it be the best seller of our times.
Thank you very
And
much.
for the authors, I'm sure they will go and buy this book and read it, because I think this I say from the bottom of my heart, it is up to us to promote talent. So especially people who don't have big publishing houses behind them. So with that, we come to the end of this talk. Hope you enjoyed it. You want to say something?
Thank you very much once again to Priya, and thank you all for watching me. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, and let me know if you have any questions of your own. You can post them on this platform on Facebook. You can post them on the comments, and I will definitely get back to you with my replies. And yes, you know what to do next. September 9th.
You haven't told them where it's available.
Yes, the book will be available. The book is available both as a paperback and an ebook. And I will be giving out the links on the day of release. And please watch out for my posts on Facebook
Any
and
Kindle
Insta.
version?
Yes, we have the Kindle version as well as the paperback, and the paperback separately for readers in India. Okay, so I think I will be able to tell that more clearly on the day of the launch, and I'll provide you with all the links that you will need in whichever part of the world that you are. So thank you very much for having me, and